I'd like to call the May 23rd Finance Committee meeting to order. Can we have a roll call?
Member Cahill.
Here.
Member Chaplin.
Here.
Member Childress.
Here.
Member Covert. I see her. Member Desart. Member Eckhoff. Member Evans.
Here.
Member Galassi.
Here.
Member Garcia.
Here.
Member Guston. Member Krajewski. Member LaPlante. Member Ozog. Member Rutledge. Member Schwarzy. Member Tornatori. Member Yu.
Here.
And Member Zay.
Okay, we have a quorum. Do we have any public comment this morning? No public comment. Okay, we move on to Chairwoman's remarks. So as we head into the 2024 budget planning session, I hope everybody had a chance to review our 2024 budget calendar, the 2024 budget letter and instructions, and the financial budget policy. So the budget policy changes reflect an opinion from the Office of the Attorney General requested by our state's attorney's office on behalf of the county clerk's office. So we'll be hearing more about our budget policy, later on in the agenda. And then you should have received a message or an email from Heidi, I believe, yesterday about volunteer opportunities, and the sheriff with the DuPage Senior Citizens Council hands out meals twice a month in the parking lot over here. So we're trying to look for volunteers to sign up or to, volunteer to help with that. So check the email and see if there's days that you're available. So with that, we move on to our discussion, our 2024 budget kickoff and financial policy discussion. So we're going to have Jeff Martinowitz come up. Morning, Jeff.
All right, good morning, everyone. I'm just going to take a few minutes here to kind of outline or discuss some of the agenda items that you have in front of you for approval later on in the meeting. I'll start out with item 10A. That is our annual budget instructions to a lot of the county departments, the elected departments in the county departments that are on our county board jurisdiction. At the last Finance Committee meeting, we did an update on our new software, OpenGov, and we continue to train all of those departments and all their staff that's responsible for entering the budget. We're substantially completed with that, so we're in pretty good shape. So today, after everything is approved, we'll send out the detailed instructions on how that will guide them through the entire budget process. The budget calendar is of importance. It gives us important deadlines and dates that we should comply with when we go through the entire budget process. Some key dates to be aware of. As I was just saying, after approval today, we'll send out a lot of the instructions and the approved policies for the budget after this meeting. Budget submissions from the departments will be due June 30th. On July 25th, we'll have a pre-budget meeting. And at that time, I kind of envision, and working with Member Chaplin, that will give an update about where we're at for fiscal year 23, and also give an update on what some of the requests are for the 24 budgets and our first run at revenues at that time, and we'll see where we stand. September 26th is a key date. The county board chair at that time will present the budget at the county board meeting. October 24th, so between September 26th and October 24th, that will give a lot of the board members time to kind of digest everything that's been going on. And we kind of finish up at that time with our first run at approving the budget at finance on October 24th. And then on November 28th, you'll have a series of resolutions to approve the budget, the tax levy, all of the items that go into this budget process. So this is the kickoff and we're on our way. We also send out and approve in item 10C, our budget financial policies. That is adopted every year, published in our annual budget. We have one substantial change that we want you to be aware of this morning, and that is to our budget transfer policy. In item 9B. You'll see the resolution for that. I'm gonna call up Lisa Smith. She's gonna go a little bit more into that, but our old policy, and we've got, as I look at members A, and we've had a lot of questions over the last several months on changing this, and I'm happy to be able to do it. We did receive an attorney general opinion, so that kind of guided us on how to develop the new budget transfer policy. So the old policy, anytime that we had a transfer that was $10,000 or less and stayed in the same accounting unit and the same account number, that could be done administratively through the department head, the CFO, and the county board chair. Anything that was over $10,000 that hit different accounting units. For example, the sheriff, maybe they have a lot of different accounting units. So if they transferred from administration to the crime lab over $10,000, that had to have county board approval from $1 all the way to a maximum amount. So with the new change, the Attorney General has given us guidance, in particular for elected departments. Any budget transfer that touches personnel or capital, no matter what the dollar amount is, will require the department elected official and the department head under county board jurisdiction to approve, the parent committee, the finance committee, and the county board. And the county board will approve that by a 2/3 majority. Now, where it becomes simpler and what we're recommending, and this complies with the Attorney General opinion, is anything that touches contractual or commodities. They have different counting units. They go from contractual commodities, and there's a couple others that are listed on the board. It doesn't need county board approval, and we're recommending that in the policy. So that will cut back substantially on the number of budget transfers, and it complies with the current Attorney General opinion. So I'm going to call up Lisa Smith, and she's going to kind of go over the new Attorney General opinion. But again, in item 9, under finance, you have this for approval, and once approved, it flows into our financial policies.
My new toy, the whiteboard. Well, good morning. As CFO Martinovich said, I'm here to speak with you about the Illinois Attorney General opinion that we recently received. And first of all, just a little background about these opinions. A state officer, an agency, or the state's attorney can seek guidance from the Attorney General when there's a conflict that has something to do with like their office and the advice that we need to provide. These Attorney General opinions, they're authoritative source of guidance, but it should be noted that they really address a specific situation that exists at a particular point in time. So last summer, our office did request guidance from the Attorney General to basically reconcile the county clerk's ability to control the internal operations of her office against the county board's duties and responsibilities to maintain good accounting records that comply with generally accepted accounting principles for government bodies. So that was the basis of the request for the opinion last summer. Those opinions take a long time. We did receive the response in April. But before I get to that, I should have said the statute that you all have a copy of it on your desk that was at issue is the provision of 55 ILCS 5/6-1003. And I'm just going to read the pertinent part that said, after the adoption of the county budget, transfers of appropriations may be made without a vote of the board. However, transfers of appropriations affecting personnel and capital may be made at any meeting of the board by a 2/3 vote of all members constituting such board. So that was the issue that we had. Going back about 30 years or so, there was some Attorney General guidance that talked about categories such as equipment, materials, and services. So we were trying to reconcile, are there now 5 categories, those 3 that I just mentioned, plus personnel and capital, Or how does everything fit in so we can be compliant with the statute and with the change? So basically, the opinion, the response that we received in April of this year summarized it pretty clearly, and I think the board actually helps. You essentially have a personnel bucket or category, a capital, and everything else, which you can see up here as miscellaneous. So if any of the elected officials need to transfer anything between line items in the miscellaneous category, that's the one to the far right, your left. If you need to transfer anything in that category, it can simply be done by finance is going to request a budget transfer form, because keep in mind, finance has to keep track on what's being spent, how it's being spent for transparency, right? So anything in that column, all the elected would need to do is say, hey, can you move something, X amount of dollars from this line item to that line item to be able to pay whatever the bill is. If there's any transfer with personnel or capital, that has to come before this board. So even if you're going, you're moving something from like regular hourly salaries or regular salaries to overtime, that would require approval of the board. So really the bulk of the opinion, they talked about that was the important thing. These are significant expenditures, and that's why county board involvement and approval is necessary. Today's budget transfer policy that you have in front of you to be considered really incorporates the guidance that we received from the Attorney General's office and the statute, combines the two. One final thing that I want to make sure that everyone's aware of, even the opinions going back 30 years ago, they always note the importance of, and the county board's role in maintaining, and I'm going to quote these opinions, the county board's statutory duty to examine and settle all accounts concerning the receipts and expenditures of the county, including those expenditures made by the several county officers, and its ability to install an adequate system of accounts and financial records in the offices and divisions of the county suitable to the needs of the office and in accordance with generally accepted principles of accounting for government bodies. So that's always been an important thing. It's been noted for the last 30 years in the opinions that, we had looked at before we requested the guidance. So I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that. And I referenced that in support of finance's work in proposing the budget policies, which pertain now to both elected officials as well as county departments.
Thank you, Lisa. I'll go to Member Krajewski, Member Zay, and Member Ozak. Member Krajewski.
Thank you. So I think more background on this. This came up when it was more on the capital side last year when the clerk's office didn't pay for
We had
capital expense, and it was like 4 or 5 or 6 months.
We had
out
an
there.
invoice that was significantly overdue.
Yeah, several months overdue, and the auditor wouldn't let the money out. So we were putting it on our agenda here to approve, so we could pay this vendor, because we were already past where penalties would incur, right? And you guys agreed it was capital, that's what our budget said, but we also got the personnel issues tied up into that attorney general thing. We weren't dealing with personnel back then, we were dealing with the capital.
Correct.
And we requested opinion for both of them. And of course, we got that opinion now. And I know, I'm not sure if everybody in finance got it, but I know Auditor White sent out another memo to at least being finance chair, that we still have a ton of bills that are outstanding that haven't been paid by the clerk's office. That we're going to be running into issues if we don't get those paid. I assume, is that what these budget transfers are? To take care of these unpaid invoices?
There are no budget transfers for the clerk today that I'm aware of.
So, but we have that issue right now, right? We have
We do.
we have outstanding invoices that aren't being paid, that we need to get paid. So I guess this opinion kind of right up that alley.
It is, and I should know too, it's not really that much different than the guidance that we provided
I know.
late 21 or early 22.
Exactly what you said is exactly what the Attorney General came back and told us. Now, have you met with the clerk, I assume?
We've actually had a meeting with the county board chair, finance chair, state's attorney, auditor, CFO.
And do they agree with this Attorney General opinion now?
Yes, we've had many meetings with regard to how to implement this. And again, it really didn't require a significant change because a lot of it was what we had advised
So they
anyway.
agree with the Attorney General opinion and what your opinion is.
Yes. They do.
Thank you, Member Krajewski. Member Zay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, just background for the new members. I mean, this was a direct challenge towards the county board. I mean, last year, I mean, basically, the deputy clerk sat there and told us they were giving raises above and beyond what this county board had given and said there was nothing we could do to stop it. And there's no elections now, there's no nothing, there's no posturing. This was a direct challenge to our authority as a county board. They didn't follow the budget procedures. They didn't fill out the budget in the forms that we requested, that every other department and every other countywide did. And they said there they can give raises. The thing that bothers me, if this board remembers, they said they had the money in their budget. They could do what they wanted to do. There's nothing we do to stop it. And I think at the end of last year, we had to transfer money into the clerk's budget because they didn't have enough money for their budget for last year. So basically, they told us they did, but then at the end of the year, we had to transfer money to cover raises. And now I've been told, because nothing in this building stays quiet, that the clerk has put more raises in for their employees again. And I think this board has been more than generous to our employees. We had a very aggressive salary structure last time. So again, where do we go with this at this point? This board has got to stand up at some point and say no. I mean, I think we're doing our job. And the clerk has to agree with this. And I can't say the clerk, it's the clerk. We haven't heard from clerks, mostly been the deputy clerk, which is fine. I'm sure he speaks for her. But again, this is a direct challenge towards our authority. We're the ones that have to levy the tax dollars. We're the ones that have to balance the budgets. So hopefully this will put this to rest at this point, and that moving forward, there'll be an agreement that they do have to do this.
Well, members, if I can, just to clarify, maybe to Member Krajewski's question. When we was asked who agreed, everyone is agreement except for the clerk. We did sit down with them. Oh.
The Attorney
No.
General.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I thought you meant, yes, we were all in agreement that this is how it has to be done. But no, the clerk is not in agreement. They don't think that this is what has to be done.
Wait a minute. So
That was my question. Did
No,
the
Okay,
clerk's
okay, wait a minute, Brian, Member Krajewski, hold on. Let Member Zay finish, then you could,
She
can
was
go.
talking to me.
Oh, we're.
I know, but I have the same.
I think, all right, you two, just, let's try to keep some order, though. I don't want
Right.
people shouting and everything,
Well,
so
Dick
please keep
went up
order.
and
And Member LaPlante, please stop that. I really would appreciate you stopping smirking and making those comments and faces. It's extremely rude. Please continue. Go ahead, Member Krajewski.
Well, that,
That's
It's-
absolutely inappropriate.
No, excuse me, Member
I'm allowed
LaPlante,
to-
every meeting, I
you
see it.
pointing at
I am
me?
pointing at you. Yes, I am. I am
How is-
asking for respect when everybody is speaking, and there is nothing wrong with that, and I have to maintain order in these meetings. So I will ask you to stop those smirky faces, and I will ask Member Krajewski to please continue.
I would like to say that that's way out of line and disrespectful and
You are being very
unprofessional.
disrespectful at every meeting, Continue,
anyone
Member Krajewski. Please continue,
Nuts.
Member Krajewski.
Thank you. My question I asked was, I know that you guys agreed, you guys are ones that gave us the opinion to begin with, and then the Attorney General just backed up what you guys came up with. But my question was, when you met, did the clerk's office agree with the Attorney General and agree with the state's attorneys here that this is how it should be?
She did not.
So.
And one thing in response to Member Zay's question, I also want to be clear. Finance cannot, if there are money in a line item, they cannot disapprove something, even if they can advise the elected official that they may run negative in the future, but they can't disapprove it if there's money right at the current time. So, there's definitely some concerns because sometimes we could be in a position where something is approved because there's sufficient funds in the line item. However, as the year progresses, there may not be, and an additional appropriation might need to be made. So I just wanted to let you know that they were very clear on that.
So they disagree that with the Attorney General and our state's attorneys that they believe it's not right, the statute, et
Yes.
cetera. They have money in the budget, they can give out currently, if they want to give their 30% raises, they can do that. They will run negative at some point. Once they run negative, then we either give them appropriations or we don't. Then what happens? They just,
Well, I mean, if they exceed their appropriation, that's essentially a Class B misdemeanor.
Class B misdemeanor, okay, so then state's attorney either files charges or has to bring in an outside attorney, so.
Correct.
So they can do it, but once they run negative, then.
Well, before they get there, and that's what finance will advise, before anyone gets negative, they should come in here for that additional appropriation or budget transfer, whatever is the case. It should be done beforehand.
And
So
so didn't, I think maybe it's the question to Jeff, because we just get an email, or didn't I just get an email sometime in the last week that they are already negative in some line items?
They're already negative in some line items, and regarding the question on the raises, I did send out an email because we did the analysis and we recommended budget transfers would be done
So
before we pay those.
based on those
raises
negatives,
out.
that means they already have a class B misdemeanor?
technically, they would be guilty, but these are things that can be easily rectified by just, all they need to do is address finance to move.
No,
The transfer.
I mean, I understand that.
But
So, but
yes,
technically,
technically,
they
there's a
have they've got a class B
There's
misdemeanor.
a violation that could lead
Right
to that. Yes.
now, is that individually that the clerk herself has got a class B misdemeanor?
It's any person who violates. So
Okay,
it's not limited to the clerk.
so it could be the clerk and the deputy clerk have already technically created a class B misdemeanor.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, just-
Okay, thank
just
you.
to
So,
fol- just to
thank you,
follow-
members. Members, so I have members A, then I have, just so everybody knows, I have member Ozog, member you, member Cahill, and member Guston. So go ahead, members A.
I mean, I don't understand this. We have our attorney our state's attorney represents the entire county. They went and sought the legal advice of the Attorney General of Illinois. And they agreed. And the clerks they are still standing there and saying no. I mean, does anybody understand the significance of this? That if every countywide went out and just said, you know what, I'm gonna do what the clerk did. You know how much trouble we are gonna be in? That we have to follow. I mean, and we put these budget items together. We put the policy out there. It's nothing. I mean, nothing has really changed. I mean, it has evolved over the years, but I mean, we ask for it in a certain manner. We try to do it the best we can. I know finance tries to help, but again, I don't understand, where do we go from here? I mean, it's troubling, I can tell you. And again, there's no posturing, no anything, the election's over. For this to continue and our state's attorney seek legal opinion from the Attorney General, and the Attorney General basically said the same thing, and the clerk still disagrees. I mean, where do we go from
Well,
here? I mean,
members,
I really don't know.
I don't know. I've had several conversations. I've asked them to please fill out the paperwork to, please comply. So, we're working the best that we can to try to get cooperation. But I don't know other than that, what our next steps are. So member Ozog.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to say, Mr. Zay, I share your concern and confusion about what's going on here. I would just like to know, though, what are the first three miscellaneous? I can't see it from here. Your whiteboard is great, but tiny. Can you just to give an idea of what is considered a miscellaneous?
The reason why I've listed, there's several things in miscellaneous. Do you want?
Just an idea.
You want to hold it for me, Vanna?
I just want an idea versus capital and personnel, and I can't see it.
Okay, so
Yeah, yeah.
what I was trying to show is there's a significant number of items in the miscellaneous category that an elected official has control over. For example, furniture, machinery, small value equipment, IT equipment, small value, operating supplies, materials, cleaning supplies, IT services, other professional services, mileage, travel, printing, advertising, postage. So those are just to give you an idea that
Okay.
there's significant number of things in that
And then
category.
Capital is when you get into more one-time purchases, an automobile, for instance, or.
Correct, and they
a
did not,
project or something along those lines where an improvement is being made.
this was actually taken from the clerk's 2023 budget. There
Okay.
wasn't anything in capital this year.
Okay,
And then personnel, I think is explanatory, so.
okay, and obviously depending on the office, you'd have different lists of capital, et cetera. Okay, thank you.
So
That's-
this
just wanted to get an
miscellaneous,
idea.
this miscellaneous in our budget, it's known as a category contractual and commodities.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, member Ozog. Member you.
So can we get an email printout of the miscellaneous? And I just want to confirm that this miscellaneous has already gone through all the department heads and directors of departments, yeah?
Yes, so basically, these are essentially the line item budget that makes up commodity and services that the CFO was just referring to. So this is actually in the budget, last year's budget. It's in that large. I think Jennifer has the Bible. It's like this thick.
Okay.
So I don't have the page number, but I can find the page. It's in the budget. So this
Okay.
is something, but I can send this along for guidance.
So with regardless of whatever cost it is, the budget transfer, if it falls under contractual commodities, that's essentially what this is, miscellaneous. Is that correct?
Miscellaneous, correct.
And then actually, I just want to take a step back. I just want to know procedurally, when is this amendment effective? And how is it going to be effectuated?
The amendment, the statutory amendment,
Yes.
it was effective back in August of 2015.
I
So
see.
that's why we had been dealing with it and we had provided guidance over the last few years on what because it was the first time that the statute was amended to include personnel and capital. So now we were a little, do we have 5 buckets? Do we have 3? How many categories do we have? So that's why we requested the opinion and that's what was clarified.
Okay, so this has already been,
It's been in effect.
yes, okay. And then the last question I have is, sorry, is it says at the end, provided for any type of transfer that the total amount appropriated for the fund is not effective. Can you just explain what that means?
Really that it's not exceeded
Oh, okay.
because obviously if
For the
any,
total appropriation.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Member Cahill.
So this is my thought. First of all, I cannot believe that the clerk's office can not agree with an opinion from our highest attorney in the state of Illinois. Second, what is really significant about their disagreement is that as a CPA and an auditor and a governmental auditor for many years, this could threaten our clean opinion for the county of DuPage when a complete office disregards an illegal opinion of how to account for certain items. This is very significant. We have to run this county in accordance with governmental accounting principles. This is control, authority, receipt, how to account for these things. If one office is not following this, we will not receive a clean or a good opinion from our auditors. This clerk's office must comply with what is happening here with this opinion. I also think that this should be made public to the people of DuPage County so they understand what is happening here. This is a threat to our clean opinion. You don't have a clean opinion on your governmental accounting, your financial statements. Guess what? This affects everything. Your bond ratings, your ability to borrow money, everything. This is a bigger issue than the clerk's office just not agreeing. It's a financial issue where they need to comply with our Attorney General. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Cahill. Member Guston.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree. The buck stops here. People are going to look at us, no matter what's going on in the county and say, where were you? Are you sleeping at the wheel? We elected you to a position to watch and be a good steward of our tax dollars. And if this is occurring, which it is, because there's obviously a misdemeanor, a Class B misdemeanor hanging out there, we need to put a stop to it. The question I have is, can we add to? How do we move forward with a Class B misdemeanor? Can we add some type of disciplinary document or a letter in a file that people can FOIA and gather information? The public will know what is going on in this situation. So I would like to see more transparency and actually some type of action moving forward if we don't get compliance. And all of us have to comply with the law. And to have someone who's not and just saying, and we're not going to do it, we're going to be our own world, it doesn't work that way. You have to work with each other. So I would recommend that at a minimum, we move forward with a Class B matter on this and also add some type of disciplinary or even some letter into the file with respect to this so that where there's a record moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Guston. And we are hoping to get compliance, everything, the state's attorney's job is to protect the county board and all the elected officials. And his opinion was put out there to make sure that we're following the law and that everybody is protected, that the elected officials are protected, the county board members are protected, and that we're protecting the people that we represent by following the laws. So, like I said, I'm hopeful that we'll get compliance, and I don't know what those next steps are. I think that would be up to the state's attorney's office, and continue to work with them to, have them comply with this opinions and these laws. Member Garcia? I have Member LaPlante after Member Garcia. Well, okay.
You.
Go ahead.
So can I ask some clarifying questions about the timeline so that not only can I make sure that I understand it, but people who are trying to follow along can understand this, because this is,
Of course.
it seems a little complicated. So this is how I'm understanding it, but please just jump in if I have it wrong. So we had this opinion has already been established, right? This was already an established.
Well, maybe if
opinion.
I can back up and see
Sure.
if I'll answer. So
Yeah.
back in August of 2015, the statute was amended requiring approval, specifically noting personnel and capital.
Mhm.
I would say subsequent to that, probably maybe 2021, there started being more confusion or concern over which things required approval and which things didn't. We provided guidance that would be late 2021, early 2022, indicating, just as we said here today, that personnel and capital needs to come before the board, all the other, or I'll use Jeff's term, commodities
Mhm.
and services.
Mhm.
What contractual,
Mhm.
those items did not require specific approval. So then last summer, I think there was an issue with regard to a capital item that we had a long time, like I think it was about 4 months or so, maybe more, that went unpaid. So that's what kind of elevated this issue and concern, which is why we requested the Attorney General opinion last summer. And the opinion was received in April of this year. Since April, we've been working with really all the finance department as well as the clerk, trying to go through and decipher the opinion and if it had any effect or change on what the procedures were here at the county.
Okay,
Does
so
that kind of-
that is helpful, and that is how I understood the timeline. Can I fill in some blanks? And again, can you tell me if this is correct? So when you say in 21 that there was some confusion and concern, is that specific to the raises that were given without board consent to the clerk's department?
I think the raises actually came in the fall of 22, but maybe,
Okay, or can,
yeah, so
then
fall of
can-
22.
okay, can you tell us what the confusion and concern in 21 was?
I think just on what required transfers and what didn't.
So not one specific.
I don't have a
incident?
specific. I don't have a specific instance, but I know that's when we were asked to give an opinion on trying to reconcile again the statute with somebody, an elected's official control over their internal operations. So
Okay,
that's
so-
when it kind of
So
started.
nothing super specific in that 21, but then in late 21, 22, early,
We provided the guidance.
well, because that's when we had the issue with the raises, correct?
That was like later in 22, yes. But we knew that there were issues because before, the reason we requested the opinion had to do with the capital expenditure that wasn't paid for several months last summer. That's when
The
we
unpaid
requested
bill,
it.
right?
But then it just continued because then raises were brought sometime in the fall of last year.
Yes.
And then I think if you recall in January, we cleaned that all up and required
Right.
transfers to get that back to square.
Right,
And I think we were all trying to work together to make sure that,
okay.
okay, now
That's helpful, but I do think it would be even more helpful, especially to our new board members, if we could attach certain specifics to this. I feel like we're speaking sometimes in generalities, but it would be helpful. So because of all of those things that happen, then this opinion was requested and given.
correct.
And we are still having issues with the clerk's department accepting this opinion.
Yes,
So this is unusual, would you say?
yes.
So we need to really address this as a board. We are a fiscal board. This is our primary responsibility, are these fiscal decisions and fiscal responsibility. This is our, I think, the number one thing that we're tasked with. So I'm really glad for this presentation today. I wish that we had heard it a little earlier. I understand it's, you know, since in April and it's only May, I get that. But this does need to be, to Member Cahill's point, this is a big deal. And I'm concerned. And I think we need to put a lot of sunlight on this. And I think the straighter talk that we can get to make it as clear as possible what we're dealing with. Are we going to hear from the clerks, from the clerk or the clerk's office?
I believe Adam Johnson is here today. I don't know if, you know, I can send an email and we can have the clerk or somebody from our office come to our next finance meeting if that's the will of the board. I think it might be appropriate.
I
You
mean, I
know,
think we absolutely have to hear from them because we're the ones that are making these votes and these decisions per the opinion from the Attorney General. So the fact that we're not hearing from the clerk is very confusing to me already. So I, for one, absolutely request that we hear from the clerk's department. I just think that's a very normal thing to do. And it would seem strange to not have them part of this conversation since it's about them. Thank you very much for the clarification. I appreciate it.
yeah, thank you, Member LaPlante. Member Garcia.
Thank you, Chair. A couple of questions. I think that what I'm hearing from the board here, and I think we're all in agreement, is that there needs to be a great degree of transparency. We need to have an idea of what's being done in each department. And yes, this is a big deal, but I don't want to go for the misdemeanor. What I'm looking for, I mean, I think if we have to, fine, but what I'm looking for is what needs to be done to actually adhere to this. What I'm hearing is they need to do budget transfers. So all they need to do is fill out the paperwork for budget transfers, correct?
That's correct. And I think that was delineated in the email with regard to the 4 accounts that are negative. If the transfer forms are completed, and probably Jeff should speak more to this. If they're completed.
Yes, if they're completed,
Okay, so it's just a matter of their department, the clerk's department, filling out the budget transfers, coming to us for a vote, like we do, or would you not even have to vote on those if they're under a certain amount of money?
if they affect going forward now, if they affect commodities or contractual, they don't even, it doesn't even come to the board. If it affects personnel or capital, then it comes to the board with a 2/3 majority.
Okay, so so it's mostly just gonna go to the finance department, just
believe-
so that we have some clarity, so that people want to see how the money is being spent and to what line item it's
Right.
going.
Yeah, and I believe
That's all that needs to be done,
these 4 that are outstanding that need budget transfers are contractual and commodities.
right?
So just the form has to be.
And I think there's
complete.
an issue that might not be enough money then for the rest of the fiscal year, is that correct?
On salaries.
On salaries, right?
There's a request for additional increases and we can't hold those up through the Attorney General opinion. So I've reached out to the clerk and asked her to confirm on whether she wants those salaries processed. I haven't heard back. Those most likely will put salaries over budget in the clerk's department. That's why we reached out.
And then what
But they
happens?
can always do a budget transfer.
So it's just for the salaries, they could do a budget transfer to cover the salaries from some other line item if they have the money, correct?
Correct. They'd have to find the money in their budget and do a transfer.
So it's just a matter of just doing the paperwork.
Correct.
That's where we're at right now.
Right.
Okay.
And those 4 items that we have outstanding, that we need those budget transfers, the internal budget transfers, the reason we can't do that is because we set that budget. We can't move money in their budget without their approval. So this is what's holding up. And if you want to talk about internal control, that's the internal control that we're giving them to say, I want you to take the money from line A and put it in line B. So this is what's frustrating because we're giving them the internal control right there. We cannot do it. So they have to do that. We cannot move the money for them.
All right, and it seems like a fairly easy fix that I think all
It's a
of the
very
boards in
easy
favor
fix,
of.
an hour worth of work probably. So thank you. I have Member Desart. And then I have member Ozak, member Krajewski, and member Galassi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to join my colleagues in their concern and confusion about this matter and figure out how and why this happened. And in doing that, I want to know how we came out of compliance, when we can expect to get back in compliance. And I agree with my colleague that we should probably hear from the clerks, somebody on the clerk's staff to come in and talk to us sooner, not later, to explain what happened and when it will be remedied. Thank you.
Thank you, member Dessert. Member Ozak?
This question is for Lisa and Jeff, but I think I know the answer. Is this an issue with any other elected office? So, not at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, member Ozak. Member Krajewski?
Yeah, thanks. Jeff, you said that you hadn't heard back from the clerk you sent regarding the raises that they wanted to do, and clearly they can do that because we're not that far into the year or halfway through the year, so they got the money in the personnel. You said if they find money elsewhere in the budget, but it can't come from commodities or contractual, that requires transfer to personnel would require our approval.
Yes, anything that touches.
So they can't really, I mean, they can't, to the extent their personnel salaries are gonna go over, they can't find money in the budget anywhere else but salaries, right? Because if it comes from capital or comes from contractual or commodities, they can't make that transfer to personnel without this board's approval.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So they really can't find it in their budget because they can only find it in the personnel. And if the personnel runs out before the end of the year, they can't move anything from any other spot within their budget without this board's approval.
Correct.
Okay, so as they're getting close to running out of money, if they push these raises through, you're gonna be alerting us that, you know, this is gonna go on negative, or they're gonna request a budget transfer, or they're gonna request money from us out of contingencies in our general fund that has to go in there.
Let me clarify that. If we get a yes, we have an elected department that wants to give out raises and we know and finance know that they're going to go over budget. We can't stop that.
Right.
That's what we can do is request a budget transfer. If they don't have the money,
A budget transfer from where?
either in their department or they can request to use a contingency or money from other areas of the
But
budget.
that needs our
But
approval.
that needs your approval.
Okay, so.
Now,
you're gonna-
if they say they're adamant, an elected department is adamant about giving these increases. And they say, yes, we have to process it through payroll. So there's a likelihood that the payments could go out before the transfer is approved.
Understood, but it's still, what happens if the payments go out and this board says no?
That's a real concern, yeah.
Which is, if I can, which is why the guidance was come in before
Sure.
these even go into effect. So that way you know that the money is earmarked and sufficient for the balance of the year.
Right, so, I mean, once we know the personnel, you guys know personnel is gonna go negative or run out. They may have money in other spots of their budget, but until they come to us and we approve the transfer, there's no money there,
Correct?
and it needs a 2/3 majority.
Correct.
Yes, thank you, member Krajewski. Member Galassi?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just reiterating a lot of what's already been said, but one clarification. So has it been approximately 6 months when the raises were asked for in the fall that they've been out of compliance and they've been asked to comply?
No, it's my, so basically the raises were requested in the fall. And I think in January there was transfer. So that's been squared away, or it's my accounting term.
So
that's
how
been-
long has it been that they've been asked to comply and they haven't?
Well, the opinion just came down in. a month
So
ago.
effectively just a month.
Well, that's when the opinion came down.
Okay.
Our guidance all along has been personnel capital come in for board approval.
Okay. So your guidance, so they've been out of compliance with your guidance for a while. It's just been this official opinion that they now
Right.
it's been approximately a month.
During that time, you know, obviously we were waiting the Attorney General opinion. Everyone knew that we were waiting the Attorney General opinion.
But it was always the state's attorney's opinion that this is what the attorney
Based-
general was gonna say.
Yes, based on the
Okay.
statute.
Okay, so I mean, whether we're looking at, which opinion, but all along the guidance has been that, to follow this and they are not in compliance. I mean, the fact that the clerk isn't speaking on this today, to me is perplexing. I would love to hear from the clerk. I do feel if it's been this long that they've been out of compliance, that we should push forward with the misdemeanor because there's no indication that they plan to comply. So it is our responsibility to do what we can as a board to push them into compliance, especially if we run the risk of them spending money that they don't have, which is what I understand that you just said. And I do think that this needs to be made known to the public. I mean, this is like one of the main things that many of us ran on is fiscal responsibility, and we have to alert the public to this. And I also agree with Member Cahill that if this prevents us from getting a clean audit opinion, that is very troublesome. It's huge. So this is a big deal. We can't just wait and hope. We need to act. So that is my opinion. Thank you.
So I just want to go through, I have member Tornatori, member LaPlante, member Yu, and then member Eckhoff. So member Tornatori, and thank you for your questions. Member Tornatori.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I feel your pain. I see it on your face, and I don't understand a lot of what's going on. And you've mentioned a couple of times you hope that the clerk will comply, as we all will, but I think maybe we're beyond hope and prayer at this point, and we've got to move forward. I'll take issue with the fact that this isn't just paperwork. This is somebody doing the right thing. This is anarchy. Okay, this is somebody deciding that they're going to follow their own set of rules. And the concern that I have here is why? Do we have a reason that the clerk or the clerk's office refuses to comply like everyone else? And if we can't get an answer to that simple question, then the second part is, how do we fix it? I'm not crazy about the idea of a Class B misdemeanor. I don't think charging our elected officials with crimes is the way to go unless it's the absolute last resort. And the state's attorney has prosecutorial discretion to hold that off. But to Jeff and the finance people, I know that elected officials have a budget and essentially can do what they want. But when there's a leak in the faucet, can't we turn off the faucet? Can't we just say, no, we're not going to let you do this because we're not going to write a check. We're not going to let you have access to the money that we have. Is there a method by which we can stop the actions that someone elected official wants to do?
Yes.
Regardless. Well, then,
Let me
doesn't
clarify.
that seem to be short of a Class B misdemeanor, which at this point, I'm not in favor of. I think that's an embarrassment to the entire county.
Right.
But isn't there a way to just say, okay, knock yourself out, Madam Clerk? You want to give raises, you want to do whatever you want to do, fine. There's no money here for you. We'll give you the money to pay your vendors. We'll give you the money to make sure that things that need to get taken care of get taken care of. But these things that are up above and beyond your budget, above and beyond what you're allowed to do, we're not going to give you the money to do that. We're cutting off your allowance. That's it. I mean, if we've got the power to do that, that's what I think we have to do. Unless I'm missing.
Let me clarify that. So on everything but payroll personnel, those transactions, if they're over budget in our accounting system, we reject it. We wait for a budget transfer. We don't cut a check and pay those vendors. And there's a series of those going on now. Payroll related, once an employee works, we have a duty to pay that employee. Now, in the case of the increases or the raises, it's the Attorney General's opinion that we have to pay those, even though they might not have the money in the future. If we put the brakes on, I'm sure there would be some kind of a legal issue with that elected department not paying those out. So that's kind of the quandary of this. While you can say no, legally, we might not be able to do that.
Okay, I think now I'm even more confused than before because I don't understand. I understand if someone's got a salary and they expect to make X number of dollars a week, you have to pay them. But when the elected official decides to raise that salary and it's beyond the budgetary constraints that they have in their office, you're telling us that they can do that anyhow, even if there's no money?
Yes.
Right
So
now-
we have no oversight.
Right.
We have know?
Right now, there's money in their budget to pay those. Right now, they have the money in the budget. By the fall, we're projecting that they're not going to have the money.
Okay, all right.
So in the fall, it becomes an issue. So in the fall, they would have to come with a budget transfer. And then that's where, like what you're saying, Sam, we say no. And then what happens?
If I want to go on vacation today and I don't have the money and I put it on my credit card, I can do it now, but it doesn't mean that I can do it if I don't have the money to pay the credit card. That's what we're talking about.
And I have asked the clerk to come, and ask us
I
about
totally agree. If the clerk would come and again, that was my.
raises.
Why?
We're not unreasonable.
Why are we doing what we're doing?
So, yes, thank
Okay.
you. I have member LaPlante. Did you want to have another question? And then I
Not
have-
so much a question. I want to make sure that we're all clear. This is not simply, as someone said, a matter of paperwork that would only take an hour, as if someone just forgot to do a chore. This is something, someone is making a very conscious decision to not comply. This isn't just, oops, I forgot to file that. The clerk has been told, this is what's expected, this is the opinion, this is the law, you'll be out of compliance. Yes, it involves paperwork that needs to be filed, but that's not simply what's happening here. And I think we're going to do a disservice to the people of DuPage County if we try to minimize it and say that this is just a simple paperwork filing that just give them an hour. They've been really busy. And if they can get to it, it'll all be done. That's not what we're dealing with, correct?
No, and that's not what was said. It's a very easy fix. It would take an hour to do the paperwork to fix the
If only
problem.
they would agree.
If they
to
would agree,
do it.
right, and that's where our
That's the
frustration, that's where
linchpin.
the frustration is, because it's a very simple fix to this problem, and it would take literally 1 hour to fill out the paperwork, right? And we would
But
be
it's-
done
It's
and
much bigger
they
than
could
that. It's
transfer that.
because someone not
Yes.
wanting to. And I would just like to
If someone
make, just
doesn't want
state
to
for
do
the record that I did ask, when are we going to hear from the clerk? I don't know what month that was, when we were saying there's going to be a new way, much more clear and open lines of communication. And I asked the deputy clerk, wonderful, let's begin as we mean to go on. When are we going to hear from the clerk? And I was smacked down in that meeting by you the same way I was today. These are questions that we need to ask. And now it's compounded. We're still not hearing from the clerk's office.
No.
This is a concern. This is my job as an elected official, is to hold other elected officials accountable. This is literally why we're all on this board, to ask these questions and to get the answers. So I'm proud to ask these questions, even though they seem to ruffle feathers. This is what we're supposed to do. Thank
yes,
you.
and thank you for your questions. And as you know, the clerk has been out, and so I'm not going to address that anymore. I'm not going to address that anymore because it's not my position to say anything else on that. But we do have a deputy clerk. I don't know if you have any comments that you'd like to make right now, or do you want to come in a couple weeks, or? Yeah, and then in the meantime, I have member you. Go ahead with your question,
All
and
right.
we'll have.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, so I understand that people are very angry and upset right now, and I am not discounting the seriousness of the situation, but I just want to kind of reiterate. So this was a legal question. There was a gray area in 2022, and then there was an opinion made by the state's attorney's office, and then most recently the AG brought an opinion in the last month or so. And so there are opportunities for the clerk to cure the issue, right? To remedy whatever is happening at this point in time. And I think we also forget that we have a state's attorney's office. We have Attorney Bob Berlin right there. It's not like they're sitting on their hands, you know what I mean? Like, I understand that we are upset. We feel that our authority is being, questioned or thwarted, but also we have a state's attorney who is working on this issue, is working on compliance. And we can't just say, oh, charge the misdemeanor, charge the Class B misdemeanor. That's not our job. It's the state's attorney's job. So I just want to just be very clear what the authority is that we have versus the state's attorney's office. And I just want to thank Chair Chaplin, because she stated that earlier. I am very thankful that, Member LaPlante did ask about the timeline. When did this opinion occur? Because that's what I was asking procedurally. When did this statute, go into effect? And when did the changes go into effect? And I wanted to know when the opinion came in, and at what point in time did the clerk's office have, that time period to comply? If we're still in the period of compliance, if we're supposed to be curing it now, then they should have the opportunity to cure it.
Thank you, member you.
So
Okay,
I just wanted to,
go ahead.
Just to acknowledge that we are here, we are listening to the conversation. There's been a lot said today, a lot to address it. I think the suggestion of returning at the next meeting, kind of getting all of the issues that were discussed on the table and providing an organized response, we'd be happy to do that. Like we're happy to provide the conversations we've been having with the state's attorney's office to, address the issues that have been brought up in this meeting. Again, a lot today that gonna have to go back and rewatch the video and organize all the questions that were raised, but we are here participating in the process and happy to, continue the conversation and work with everyone to resolve the issue. But at this point, I don't think like I'm going to respond right now, like in this moment on the fly, but we will take all of the questions that have raised, happy to return at the next meeting and, or in the meantime, in writing to respond and continue to address the
Yeah,
issue.
we'll get you on the next meeting. Okay, hold on. Member Ozak, do you have a question for
I have a
Mr.
question
Adam?
for Mr. Johnson.
If you could,
I have a question for
Yeah.
you, Mr. Johnson. Okay. As an elected official, I really don't appreciate being put in this position. And I want to ask you, first of all, are you an attorney?
I believe you know that I am not.
I'm asking if you are.
Right.
I also don't appreciate you sitting in the back corner and grinning about this. There is nothing funny about this. And frankly, the only answer that I can accept here is that you'll just do it. And I don't understand why that's not happening. I haven't spoken to the clerk, but I don't understand because as I asked a few minutes ago, nobody else is operating their department this way or their office, shall we say. So knock it off. Fill out the forms. It's not a big deal. You are not an island. You are not a fiefdom. And this needs to get done. And don't put us in this position because it's going to work out poorly for the clerk's office. And now I've said it.
So, and again, just to reiterate my previous statement, I think it would probably be more productive to address this in, an organized,
Yeah,
detailed
and
fashion.
remember what I
And-
said,
and-
just do it.
And
Nike.
thank you.
thank you. Okay, hold on. I see a lot of hands up again. So I'm going to put member Glossy on the list. I have member Desart. I have member Krajewski again, member Eckhoff and member Guston. So member Eckhoff.
It's my understanding that the state's attorney's office has already had discussions with the clerk. Can you tell us what she said?
We've had a meeting and that's the meeting I referred to that had Chair Chaplin.
So what's her
Chair Co-
explanation for doing this?
They had some additional questions that they put in writing to us. We responded to those and that's where we stood.
What's their questions?
Just basically, we viewed it as just repetitive to what was said in the meeting with the same advice. Again, our advice really hasn't changed for the last year plus.
So there's no explanation, basically, just dancing around the issue so they don't have to deal with it. Because I remember about 6 months ago when we had a question regarding a letter that didn't get delivered to Springfield, that we were told by the clerk's office that they would do whatever the state's attorney's office told them to do in terms of their procedures. So apparently that is now out the window, and I'm sad to say that, but Adam had to take the heat for that one too, because the clerk didn't show up. But that's what we were told. They'll do what the state's attorney said. Is a class B misdemeanor, I think it's a 6 months in jail, $500 fine is a maximum. Is $1,500? Oh, wow, since I've been in criminal court, it's a lot higher. Yeah. Is that one charge for everything, or is that one charge for every single violation, so they can end up with 20 different charges?
So just to clarify what the statute says regarding the Class B misdemeanor, it's a Class B misdemeanor for a county officer to expend funds in excess of the amount appropriated to him or her in their office during a fiscal year. The money has to actually be expended. And just procedurally, so the board understands, the state's attorney by law represents all the county officials, including the clerk. And if this were to proceed down the road of an investigation in a Class B misdemeanor, I would have to go to the chief judge and ask for the appointment of a special prosecutor. By law, the chief judge would then have to first reach out to the local surrounding state's attorneys, the counties surrounding DuPage, and the Attorney General. And if they turned it down, which they have the right to do, the chief judge would then have to appoint a private attorney as a special prosecutor, and the county would have to pay for that. That's how it operates. And we get these requests periodically from other counties. We have stepped in as special prosecutors in Will County, recently in Lake County. But this is the kind of situation where I would expect other counties to decline if that opportunity were to present itself.
So you're saying the expenditure actually has to be made by the county, not just the request made by the clerk?
No, it's a county officer who expends funds in excess of the amount appropriated. So if that money is spent, yes, in excess, that's what triggers the Class B.
So she has to ask for the request, and then for some reason, even though it hasn't been budgeted, it still gets paid by our finance department, right? So what Mr. Markowitz was saying was that we have to pay it if she makes the request. I mean, if she gives somebody $1 million raise, do we have to pay $1 million?
No. If you don't pay it, obviously it's going to probably result in a lawsuit from either if it's a vendor, I would imagine the vendor is going to file a lawsuit at some point.
Right. All right, well, I'm still not sure about the mechanisms, but we got lots of other questions. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you, Member Eckhoff. I have Member Guston.
Thank you. Thank
do
you,
you have
Madam
an
Chair.
I do. And then I have you on the list, and then I have Member Galassi, and then I can't read my own writing. I don't know who I wrote the last one, but yeah, so.
Thank you, Member Chair.
Rajewski.
Quick question. If in fact raises are done, and then the employee doesn't get paid, I'm assuming the employees then would in turn sue whomever, the county. It's an employment issue. It's not anything other than an employment issue, correct?
We're required to pay our employees through the Department of Labor 13 days after the end of the pay date.
Raise or no raise.
Right. So
Okay.
if they've incurred the service, we have to pay
Right.
them.
Right. So you're
Just to
Yes.
echo, in the event that the board wouldn't approve the additional appropriation or transfer later in the year, it could result in a layoff too. That would be the other option. It's not fun.
okay. And then also, are there any other disciplinary mechanisms to get a director in compliance? I know it sounds like it's only been a month, but I've been hearing about this for a long time. And if you'd had, you follow things, this is just kind of the next step to get attention, to get into compliance. It's almost like, okay, you're going to get a warning, and then the next time you're going to get a ticket. And so this is kind of how this process has been unfolding, in my view, in the short time that I've been here and then been watching for the past few years. So is the only, and I want to say only, with the misdemeanor, have we gotten to a place where that is something that's viable and something that could be considered by this board?
Again, the board wouldn't make that decision. Whether it's a Class B misdemeanor. I would have to make that decision and go to the chief judge for the appointment of a special prosecutor. The only other statute that would apply is the official misconduct statute, which says that a public officer or employee commits official misconduct if they knowingly perform an act which they know they're forbidden by law to perform.
Thank you. And, Member Guston, I just want to point out that Assistant State's Attorney Lisa Smith and Paul Bruckner and Barb Reynolds. I met with Lisa and Adam Johnson and Barb, or it was just you and I first with Adam, then we brought in Barb, then Paul Bruckner. And the State's Attorney's Office has been very willing to meet and explaining, over and over again, has been very professional in working with them. we've got this opinion, so we've all been working very, very hard. And his member Tornatori said, we don't want to necessarily, have a Class B misdemeanor out there, but we have, at some point, we have a fiscal responsibility. We have to make sure that we're following general, good standing, accounting guidelines. We have to make sure that, we're following state statutes too. We have to protect ourselves as well. So, and we can't, and as Member Kale said, if we're not paying our bills, that could affect our bond rating. That has a negative impact on the whole county. So, I am at a loss. I just don't know. So, I hope we can get this resolved. So next on my list, I have Member Galassi, or Member Desart, then Member Galassi, then Member Krajewski. Member Desart.
Thank you. I had some comments for Mr. Johnson. If he can come back on. Is he still in the room?
Yeah, he's coming.
First of all, Mr. Johnson, to lower the temperature a little bit, I just wanted to congratulate on your new daughter.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. I agree with Member Tornatori. It is not productive to charge an elected official with a class B misdemeanor. I think that sets us on the wrong path. Number one. Number two, I think it gives all of DuPage County a black eye. My question to you is that when you were up previously a few minutes ago, I heard you say that you're going to take these next 2 weeks until our next finance committee meeting to re-listen to the tape and come up with answers to all the questions that we've raised here. I just wanted to say that I think it's more productive to use these next 2 weeks to actually do the work, become compliant, and then come back in 2 weeks and tell us that you are compliant. Thank you. Those are my comments.
Thank you, Member Desart. Okay, I have Member Galassi and then Member Krajewski.
Thank
Member
you.
Galassi.
Can I ask our state's attorney a question? I'm just curious. So now I understand it would be your decision to charge for a misdemeanor. And it sounds like that couldn't even happen until the fall. And it sounds like the board isn't really interested in that. But can you describe a little bit more about the official misconduct? And is that your decision as well, as opposed to the board's? And what does that entail? And just a little bit more information about that. And what are the ramifications?
Well, generally speaking, it's always the state's attorney's decision to charge anyone with a crime. However, there's a legal conflict when it involves another county official that by law we represent. So I could not legally, ethically make that decision. I would have to go to the chief judge and ask for an appointment of a special state's attorney. And the law allows for that. And that special state's attorney would then have complete discretion to investigate and make any charging decision.
So is that the same answer for the official misconduct?
Same answer.
Okay, so what is your best advice as to how we proceed if the state's attorney, if the clerk's office does not come into compliance? What is our best action at this point as a board?
I think the best action at this point, I think we've heard from the deputy clerk that they will appear at the next meeting. I think the board is saying the right thing. And let's hope that they comply with the law. Let's at least give them a chance, would be my advice at this point. If that doesn't happen, then we have to decide, the board has to decide which way to go. We can give you legal advice.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Member Krajewski.
Thank you. This is probably for both the state's attorney and Jeff. Jeff, you mentioned twice, I think you said that we're legally obligated to pay it, the raises or in the salaries, even when they go negative. So if they gave everybody a $500,000 raise and they're going to run out in a couple of weeks or months, we legally, if they keep going, we legally have to pay.
They're already over budget. Yeah, that I'm sure state's attorney at that time would step in because we'd be reporting that. I'd be reporting it.
Right, but you were saying that when they go negative, we're legally obligated to continue paying them.
If
they go
do
negative
an
in their
analysis,
budgets, right? Well, let's just assume they gave everybody $500,000 and they're a month from now, they're going to be done with their budget. So now they're negative. And you said that if they can continue to pay them. That's what I'd rather hear the state's attorney tell me
So,
that.
so basically what the Attorney General opinion said is that if they have money at the time it's requested, you have to do it. However, once it's a payroll item, it has to be paid. However, they have to do a layoff at that point because we
Well,
simply
that's
don't
not-
have it to pay.
That's what I want to understand, because
Yes.
Jeff said twice that we have to, they go negative, they run out, that we have to continue to pay them. That's, if they go negative, I can understand if you got to pay them for the last 2 weeks, but then do they have to lay everybody off?
They would have to do a layoff because I think
That's different than what Jeff said.
But I think he was distinguishing if it's simply a matter like a personnel item that or a commodity that you don't have to pay. That
I'm
can be-
talking specifically that there's raises that have been requested, that Jeff said. So their analysis is they're gonna run out. They can potentially give more raise. They can give as many raises they want while they got money in the budget. But then let's say they gave out a lot of raises and a lot of bonuses, whatever they want to do. And then come a couple months from now, they hit negative. Now, what's the ramification? Jeff said we have to continue paying, but you're saying
You could lay off because
Well,
when you can't meet the
me
payroll.
or them, or I mean, is it us? We just say you ran out of money, we're not approving it. Therefore, they have to lay it off, or they just continue to let them work the rest of the year. And
No,
we
I
have
would say that there would have to be a layoff because obviously there's not money to pay the kind of salaries that you're talking about.
okay, and who lays them off? Is that just I mean, or you can get back to me on that.
I would assume the county board would pass a resolution for layoffs in that department.
Okay, so that would be, I mean, you can get back to us on that question.
Mhm.
And then the second thing, it's great that they're gonna come back in 2 weeks, but can we do something with, I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 unpaid invoices that amount to $180,000. One going back to September, that we have the polling places still haven't been paid $22,800, and that was on April 4th. Can we maybe see if they can agree to at least do what they need to do so we could pay those next meeting 2 weeks from now when they come to talk to us, so we can encourage them to, because we need to pay these vendors. And there's like I said, there's.
Yeah, the county auditor has been working closely.
I understand that.
Right. And we're doing all we can do to get those out.
But I would say we need to ask the clerk or try to do something to get on our agenda for 2 weeks from now. I mean, great, they're gonna come and talk to us maybe in 2 weeks, but can we try to get these vendors paid?
Remember, could you, I've asked yesterday, I've asked, all last week, I begged them to do the paperwork to get these invoices paid. I have spoke many times on the phone with them, begging them to do the paperwork, and they will not do it.
I mean, that jeopardizes our future elections. If the polling places aren't gonna be paid, they may want, I understand that.
Okay, Adam Johnson's gonna come up.
Hmm.
Just yesterday, I asked to fill out the paperwork.
Oh,
I asked them.
okay.
Just to clarify, to my understanding, the resolution to change the transfer policy to then create the paperwork that would process those transfers is to be voted on by the board today. Like,
Do you want
isn't
us-
the resolution changing the transfer policy that would then allow us to make those transfers? Isn't that on the
No,
agenda
that's been,
to be voted on by the board?
no, they were allowed to, you could have done them all.
Before this policy change, had we submitted the transfer form, it would have been voted on by the board, correct?
No. This is, could somebody explain it
Sure,
better
go-
than I
go-
could?
go.
No, the policy, go ahead.
No,
Lisa.
the policy is being changed with regard to amounts. The policy is also confirming what the Attorney General opinion and the statute provide. But these transfers could have been made without this.
No,
Between
never,
commodities
never.
and
It's
contractuals, it's commodities and contractuals you can transfer between line items.
So can we get that commitment that that the paperwork will be filled out and we can get those invoices paid? Right after, all right, let's say you couldn't do it last week. We're gonna approve this policy, then you will fill out that paperwork today and we can get those invoices paid.
Again, I think it would probably be more productive to bring the board in on the entire conversation that's been happening, which we can't do at this board meeting right now. But I'm happy to forward you the correspondence that we had with the state's attorney's office that we received yesterday. Asked the questions 2 weeks ago about the applicability of the Illinois Attorney General to transfers, received the response from the state's attorney yesterday afternoon, which I'm happy to forward on to the entire board. Then this morning, you're now taking action on the transfer policy. I've been in this room the entire workday today. We haven't had any opportunity to take action on any transfers since receiving the Attorney General or the state's attorney's opinion or guidance yesterday. But again, happy to, after we leave this meeting to, sit down and discuss where the paperwork stands at the moment. So there's a lot being
No,
thrown.
we really need a commitment right now. Yes or no? Are you going to fill out that paperwork and get it done after we vote on this policy? We need to get those bills paid and we are putting the county in jeopardy. So please answer yes or no, because then we're going to know how we're going to proceed.
So again, I will consult with the clerk. I'm not going to make a decision on her behalf. I'm letting everyone know where things stand. Depending on how long this meeting runs, I can go down to the office and talk to her before county board. I wasn't expecting to be up here at 9:15 in the morning answering questions. But my understanding is we had questions to the state's attorney based on the Attorney General opinion. We received responses from the state's attorney yesterday to those questions. We have not had any opportunity to take any action based on the response that we received from the state's attorney, but we will do so at the earliest available opportunity.
And those responses were the exact same responses that were given in the meeting 2 weeks ago. Those
Again,
were
I'm
the
happy to
exact
forward the
same.
document and let it
exact
speak
same.
for itself.
Okay, well, back to my question with the state's attorney, and if I can have you back up there. First, what he just said has nothing to do with anything regarding this 11 unpaid invoices. They're contractual, they can be moved from one contractual to another, irrespective of this Attorney General opinion, which dealt with capital and with personnel.
Absolutely.
That could have been done months ago, under our policy. That was
Yes.
just kind of a curveball that you threw out there. So this stuff could have been done. It can be done internally by them. They can transfer from one account in contractual to another to get these sufficient ones paid. Our auditors raised the issue, and maybe we can advise the board that if these things don't get paid, according to Auditor White, we're going to have potential penalties of the Prompt Payment Act. So now we're potentially in violation if we aren't already. of
I
the
believe
Prompt-
we're almost I think we have next week is when we risk violating that.
Yeah, so now we're a week away
What's-
from violating the Prompt Payment Act. That's why we can get these done. And again, it has nothing to do with that Attorney General opinion, which this could have been done last week, last month. We could have paid our polling places.
Correct.
We need to emphasize somehow to get these things paid, so we're not in violation of the Prompt Payment Act.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna, member Ozak, member Garcia, and after that, I'm closing and LaPlante, then we're closing discussion because we have other business we have to get to. Okay, so
If I recall correctly, back in January, I think it was, we had a $400,000 plus request from the clerk's office that was regarding the election that we had to approve. So what I don't understand, that came before us, we approved it, it was paid, and it was related to the election. And I'd like to ask Mr. Johnson directly, why aren't these 11 invoices paid, which seems to be business as normal? And why are you exempted apparently from paying bills, unlike the treasurer's office, the sheriff's office, all the elected offices, which I don't understand this. The word defiance comes to mind. Why haven't these invoices been paid?
So I apologize because my laptop's not starting up. I was going to try to forward the email now at the meeting, but I'll have to wait until I get back to my office. Just to clarify, the invoices in question have been approved by the county clerk. They have been approved for payment.
Okay,
Our office has been instructed that those payments will not be made unless we transfer funds from one line item to another line item.
so why not do that?
We proceeded to ask the state's attorney based on the Attorney General opinion. And again, I will forward you all the emails, so you'll have
Okay.
it within half an hour to read. Based on the opinion of the Attorney General, does the county board have the authority to require that line item transfer before paying the clerk's bills? That question was specifically asked of the state's attorney. We received the state's attorney's response to that question in writing yesterday afternoon.
Although you've been
So-
told previously that we do indeed have that authority.
Yes, yes,
You've been
yes,
told
yes,
that all
2
along.
weeks
I'm
ago.
not going to characterize
okay,
what
but
the
2
state's
weeks ago,
attorney
they
said.
were
I'm not
told.
going to
Okay,
speak for
but
him.
my point is, I think you can see the picture here. There's really only one response from your office that you can bring back here in 2 weeks. And basically that's that these invoices are paid and that we're going to conduct business as usual in the clerk's office, the same way we do for all the other elected offices. End of story.
I do agree that the procedures for the clerk's office and the other countywide elected officials should be uniform. I agree with that.
Thank you. Then we'll see those invoices paid and this will go away.
Can I just clarify a couple things? A couple weeks ago, we spent a significant period of time with a number of individuals from the county, namely county board chair, county chairman, or the chairman of this committee, CFO, auditor, and the list goes on and on, county staff in our office, state's attorney. And we spent a significant time to prep for that meeting to make sure everyone was on the same page and had a thorough understanding of what's going to happen. It wasn't substantially different than what we said a year or two ago, but in any event, the email that he's referring to is essentially the same things that we discussed at that meeting, and we confirmed in writing yesterday, yes, the same thing that we said before. And just to give you, to use the whiteboard again, when you have the miscellaneous category, all you need to do is let people know, because they have internal control of their operations, let people know what line item to what line item you want to transfer something. That's the reason that they need to exercise the control that they have sought.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay, so then I have member Garcia and member Zay. Did you have a question or no? Oh, member LaPlante. Go ahead. Or
Just
member-
really quickly, it's been commented a couple of times that I said it's just a matter of paperwork. Well, the reason that I said that is because the amount of time you put into this, the paperwork could have got done.
Absolutely.
This is ridiculous.
Mhm.
I am so frustrated listening on this board that this is continuing on. It's wasting your time, the state's attorney's time, when this is work that should have been done very, very simply. And that is the reason I said it's just a matter of paperwork. So just do the paperwork.
That's correct.
Just do the paperwork. I don't understand. So this is very frustrating to me. And all I want to hear when you come back next time we meet is that the paperwork's done and that you're in compliance. That's all I'm asking. So thank you.
Thank you, member Garcia. Member LaPlante.
Thank you. Yes, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that there's a lot of frustration here today from everyone on this board. What I'd like to also address is the issue of my face. You might not like my face, but it's the only one I've got. What you were seeing expressed was shock. Excuse me, I'm still talking.
No, member LaPlante,
I
I
was
am the chair of
shocked.
this committee, and your disrespect to me at every committee is unacceptable. So I will ask that you refrain from making your snide faces when I speak and you disrupt doing that. So I am the chair right now. I am asking for respect from you, and that includes lurking back there, making faces when I try to get control of this meeting, when I try to keep control of the meeting and not have people shout out, and you make an expression that I am out of order for wanting to
Excuse
keep
me.
my meetings in control. No, I am in control of this meeting. You have said your thing. We can discuss it afterwards, but I have to keep control of my meeting, and
What
I will
I'm
not stand
expressing-
your disrespect anymore at these meetings.
What
And that
I'm
is just how it
expressing-
is.
What I'm expressing is this is the first time that I'm hearing about this. I've only talked to my colleagues on either side. It's the first time they're hearing about this. This is pretty shocking. It's not every day, every meeting that you come in and hear that there might be a Class B misdemeanor brought up for an elected official. That is shock. That is shocking. That, and you've known about this for a few weeks. Some people have. We haven't.
Madam
This
Chair-
is big news. This is a shock. That's what I would like to say.
Thank you. Thank you.
Chair Chaplin.
Yeah, I'm trying to get this discussion
Okay,
closed.
I was just
Yes.
going to move to close the discussion
Yes.
because I feel we're belaboring the point.
Yes. Members A, really quick, and then
Yeah,
we're
thank you, Madam
closing
Chair.
this.
You know, we talk about just this only being a month. This has not been a
No,
month.
no, it has
This
not.
goes back to the election equipment. This goes back to the printers. This goes back to the
does.
carrying
It
cases.
does.
This goes back years.
It does.
And the seriousness of this, I hope we have the clerk here, because this board in the past has requested the clerk to come and hasn't. The seriousness that the county board chair is sitting in now in the meeting, the state's attorneys here, us as elected officials, this is a discussion between elected officials, not the deputy clerk, not anybody else. This is serious. This has not been something that's just only been 1 month. This has
No.
been a policy. It's also started last year when they refused to fill out any of the budget forms that we had requested that every other department does, every other countywide did. We had to wait months and months and months, and I don't think it's overburdened. We've tried to streamline that so it's easier. Finance is there to help, but this is serious. We need the clerk here at the next finance meeting, not a staff member. And it has to be between elected officials, not between staff.
And members say, you know that I will request the clerk, but as you know, right? So I'm doing my best and I'm going to close discussion. I have to, Member Clay, all right, go ahead. Well, the auditor will be here. He's not in town right now. So he is, he's not,
See what this does to our opinion, our financial opinion, okay? So this is a big deal.
Yeah. So, okay, so thank you all for the conversation. I appreciate it. And we are going to move on now to the rest of our agenda. So if I can have a motion on the approval of minutes from Tuesday, May 9th, 2023. I have a motion by member Desart, second by member Childress. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Can I have a motion on budget transfers 231900 transfer of funds from account number 5,042.50, 53800 to 5,042.50, 3804 for postal and postal charges, software maintenance agreements, wireless communications and IT equipment in the amount of $339,784. I have a motion by Krajewski, second by member Zay, motion by member Zay, second by member Glassy. Discussion, member Krajewski.
Are these just transfers amongst contractual in the?
This was a grant.
So the
Okay.
form was filled out for everything, not just separated out
Sure,
by
but
line.
the contractual ones that are in here, those are just the transfers between one contractual to another?
Yeah.
The same exact thing that we're requesting them to do.
Correct.
So he did it here, but not on the unpaid invoices.
Yeah, right. This is a grant.
Okay,
one
but
you're
it's the
talking
exact
about.
same transferring from one contractual to another.
Right.
It came through, which is the same paperwork that needs to be done. All right, thank you.
Thank you, member Krajewski. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Oh, you want a roll call? Roll call?
Member Cahill. Member Chaplin. Member Zay. Member Cahill. Member Chaplin.
Jeff, was this with a grant? This was a grant funded. Aye.
Member Childress.
Aye.
Member Covert. Member Desart. Member Eckhoff. Member Evans.
Aye.
Member Galassi.
No.
Member Garcia.
Aye.
Member Guston. Member Krajewski. Member LaPlante. Member Ozog. Member Rutledge. Member Schwarzy. Member Tornatori. Member Yu.
Aye.
You passed? Oh, okay. Yes.
And what was the total on that vote? Okay, so the motion fails. We need 2/3 vote. Okay. All righty, we move on to FIR 0137. Can I have a motion on FIR 013723 budget transfers
Second.
52323 various companies and accounting units? Who moved? Member Guston, second by member Garcia. Any discussion on these items? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, the motion carries. We move on to finance requisition or procurement requisitions under finance. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on 23-1819, approval of an extension to purchase order 4305 issued to Baker Tilly for an extension through September 30th, 2023.
Motion by member Krajewski, second by member Covert. Any discussion? Member Krajewski.
Real quick, Jeff, how long has Baker Tilly been our auditors and are we going out for bid shortly?
They just completed their 5th year and we are currently going out to bid.
Okay, and this extension is carrying through to get our audit done for this last year?
No, just to keep them on until
Okay.
we have a new
And
approved.
When's
audit.
RFPs going out or,
Probably at the end of the month, which is real soon, within a week.
because they need to get in here when to start preliminary?
Oh, they've got a lot of time. Preliminary starts in February, March next year.
Oh, they don't do anything prior to end of year?
Not too much. We're done with fiscal.
Right, but for the next year, they don't start.
Yeah, there's
till-
time. I've just been told that it'll go out in July.
Okay,
There's still enough time.
Thank you, member Krajewski. We move on to ETSB, member Schwarzy. Oh, I'm sorry. All those in favor?
aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Now we move on to ETSB, member Schwarzy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on item ETSR 2823, a resolution approving the sale of surplus items from the County of DuPage on behalf of the Emergency Telephone System Board of DuPage County to the Wyoming Community Fire Protection District.
Motion by member Schwarzy, second by member Desart. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. We thank you, member Schwarzy. We move on to human services, member Schwarzy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on item HSCO 923, an amendment issued to LifeScan Laboratories of Illinois for patient phlebotomy and lab services for the DuPage Care Center for the period September 20, 2022 through September 19, 2023 to increase encumbrance in the amount of $15,000, a 75% increase.
Motion by member Schwarzy,
Aye.
second by member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, the motion carries. Member Schwarzy.
Thank you. I move on item HSCO 1023, an amendment issued to KCI USA Inc. for rental of wound vac therapy and medical supplies for wound and skin care for the DuPage Care Center for the period January 26, 2023 through January 25th, 2024 to increase encumbrance in the amount of $45,500, a 304.35% increase.
Motion by member Schwarzy, second by member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Thank you, member Schwarzy. We move on to JPS and member Evans.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to move on JPSP 005323, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Nestor Evaristo as a veteran mentor coordinator to develop a veteran peer mentor program for the period May 30th, 2023 through May 29th, 2024 for a contract total amount not to exceed $37,500.
Motion by member Evans, second by member Guston. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Member Evans.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move on JPSR 006023, recommendation for the approval of an addendum to resolution JPSR 000223, intergovernmental agreement between the County of DuPage and the County of Kane for housing and detention services for minors.
Motion by
Modify
member
the
Evans.
Insurance coverage to reflect excess coverage in the amount of $20 million with a $1 million self-insurance retention.
Motion by member Evans, second by member Yu. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, member Evans. We move on to Public Works, member Garcia.
Thank you, Chair Chaplin. I move for approval of FMP 006623, recommendations for the approval of a contract to AMS Mechanical Systems Inc. to furnish and install natural gas piping replacement and upgrades to the gas main and meter at the power plant facilities management for the period of May 23rd, 2023 through May 22nd, 2024 for a total contract amount not to exceed $125,837.
Motion by member Garcia, second by member Yu. Was it second by member Yu or member Desart? Okay, any discussion on this item? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
I motion for approval of FMP 006723, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Earthworks Land Improvement and Development Corporation for construction of a stormwater detention and best management practices BMP projects at the East Campus Detention Basin for facilities management for numerous building construction projects for the period of May 23rd, 2023 through December 15th, 2025, for a total lump sum of $2,793,517.
Okay, motion by member Garcia, second by member Childress. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Member Garcia.
I move for approval of FMP 006823, recommendation for the approval of an agreement between the County of DuPage, Illinois and V3 Companies Limited to provide phase 3 professional stormwater engineering services and engineering design for campus project for facilities management for the period of May 23rd, 2023 through December 15th, 2025, for a total contract amount not to exceed $241,095.
Motion by member Garcia, second by member Yu. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Member Garcia.
And finally, I move for approval of PWP 003523, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Rapid View LLC for parts of Naples to repair the IBAC sewer televising camera for Public Works for the period of May 23rd, 2023 to May 31st, 2027, for a contract total amount not to exceed $60,000.
Motion by member Garcia, second by member Yu. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Thank you, member Garcia. We move on to technology. Member Yu.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on to EP 005423, recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order to Physicians Record Company to furnish and deliver printed carbonless NCR forms for various county offices, including the Supervisor of Assessments, Coroner, Sheriff, Regional Office of Education, Public Defender, Clerk of the Circuit Court, Transportation and Probation. This contract covers the period of June 1, 2023 through May 31, 2024, for a total amount of $42,000.
Motion by member Yu, second by member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Thank you, member Yu. We move on to transportation. Member Ozog.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Madam Chair, I move for approval of DTR 0211A22, amendment to DTR 021122, issued to Utility Dynamics Corporation for the street lighting improvements along Fabian Parkway, section 22002105 TL, to increase the funding in the amount of $625.72, resulting in an amended contract total of $105,240.42, an increase of 0.6%.
Motion by member Ozog, second by member Yu. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Member Ozog.
Thanks. I move for approval of DTR 0382A22, amendment to resolution DTR 038222 between the County of DuPage and RW Duntman for the Milton Township Lambert Road improvements, correction to project section number.
Motion by member Ozog, second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Member Ozog.
I move for approval of DTO 005123, recommendation to repeal DTO 1688, the DuPage County Fair Share Transportation Impact Fee Ordinance, and adopt the DuPage County Fair Share Transportation Impact Fee Administration Ordinance.
Motion by member Ozog, second by member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Member Ozog.
Thank you. I move for approval of DTP 007123, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Complete Fleet Services Incorporated for on-call repair service and repair parts for diesel trucks and plows as needed for the Division of Transportation for the period June 1st, 2023 through May 31st, 2024, for a contract total not to exceed $30,000, first of 3 renewals.
Motion by member Ozog, second by member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Member Ozog.
Thank you. I move for approval of DTP 007223, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Kevin's Auto and Diesel Repair for on-call repair service and repair parts for trucks and plows as needed for the Division of Transportation for the period June 1st, 2023 through May 31st, 2024, for a contract total not to exceed $30,000, first of 3 renewals.
Motion by member Ozog, second by member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Member Ozog.
I move for approval of DTP 007323, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Precise MRM LLC for fleet tracking equipment and service agreement for the Division of Transportation for the period of June 1st, 2023 through May 31st, 2024, for a contract total not to exceed $34,000, not suitable for competitive bids, sole source software manufacturer.
Motion by member Ozog, second by member Yu. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Member Ozog.
I move for approval of DTP 007423, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Compass Minerals America to furnish and deliver bulk rock salt as needed for the Division of Transportation for the period June 1st, 2023 through May 31st, 2024 for a contract total amount of $1,331,270 per lowest responsible bid, subject to 3 one-year renewals.
Motion by member Ozak, second by member Yu. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Member Ozak.
I move for approval of DTP 007523. Excuse me. Recommendation for the approval of a contract to Gonzalez Companies LLC to provide professional construction engineering services upon request of the Division of Transportation for the period of May 23, 2023 through November 30th, 2025 for a contract total not to exceed $500,000, professional services vetted through a qualification-based selection process.
Motion by member Ozak, second by member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Let the record reflect, member Krajewski leaving the room. Member Ozak.
Thank you. I move for approval of DTP 007623. Recommendation for the approval of a contract to Tecma Associates Incorporated for professional construction engineering services for various improvements, section 23, Gen GR 12 EG for the period May 23rd, 2023 through November 30th, 2025 for a contract total not to exceed $500,000, professional services vetted through a qualification-based selection process in compliance with Illinois Local Government Professional Services Selection Act.
Motion by member Ozak, second by member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, member Ozak. We are going to move on to finance resolutions and just in time, member Krajewski.
Chair, I move on 23-1824 Supervisor of Assessment Staff to attend the State of Illinois Property Tax Appeal Board hearings in Springfield from June 12th, 2023 to June 14th, 2023. Cost to the county not to exceed $700.
Motion by member Krajewski, second by member Guston. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on FIR 0136-23 DuPage County Budget and Budget Transfer Policy.
I have a motion by member Krajewski, second by member Garcia. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on FIR 0138-23 approval of bank depositories from the Treasurer's Office.
Motion by member Krajewski, second by member Cahill. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Move on 23-1825 budget preparation instructions for fiscal year 2024 budget letter instructions.
Motion by member Krajewski, second by member Guston. Any discussion? All those in member Desart.
Yeah, thank you. During, I believe it was Jeff's earlier comments regarding the calendar. Jeff, is it true that you added from the calendar that was in the packet? I believe you added a July 25th pre-budget meeting.
Yes, that's on there.
Okay, are there any other pre-budget meetings?
Okay, so no, not in finance,
Okay,
but
in the
your
committee meetings?
committee meetings, your department liaisons will be reaching out to you if you are a chair of a committee.
Okay, thank you so
discuss
much. I
budget.
just wanted to clarify because that July 25th wasn't in the packet calendar.
I thought we published it on the calendar.
Nope, I got the calendar right here. It's under what? Oh, it's under the May 23rd through August 25th. Eagle eye. All right, thanks, Jeff, so much.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you, member Desart. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on FIR 0139-23 approval of the fiscal year 24 budget calendar.
Motion by member Krajewski, second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on FIR 0140-23 acceptance and approval of the fiscal year 2024 DuPage County financial and budget policies.
Motion by member Krajewski, second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we move on to informational, and I'm going to call member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to receive and place on file informational items, A, payment and claims, B, wire transfers, C, appointments, and D, grant proposal notifications.
Okay, I have a motion by member Krajewski and a second by member Garcia to receive and place on file items A, B, C, and D under informational. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Next on our agenda is our ARPA request. Can I have a motion on 23-1896, Naperville Convention and Visitors Bureau ARPA request? Do we have any questions on this item? Member Desart?
I don't have any questions, but I did see Christine Jeffries here earlier.
Yes,
so,
she was here earlier.
if you had any questions for her, but as a District 5 representative, I hope you'll join me in supporting this initiative. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
any other questions or Member Krajewski?
Yeah, I think this is great, and the last one we did for these events coming to DuPage County, but I would suggest that we look at setting aside some money, maybe $500,000 or something like that, to put into, Economic Development Committee, to let them look at events like whether it's Naperville or Itasca or Oak Brook or the DuPage Convention Bureau to come, if they can bring events here to DuPage for whatever 1,000-room nights or some, number of nights, that we can, push those forward. I think these last couple ones we've done have been great to bring in people to DuPage County. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Member Krajewski. Member Guston, then Member Desart. Member Guston?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with Member Desart and Member Krajewski. I think we should go forward with this one and actually get some funding for additional ones moving forward also. So I would support moving this forward and then try to figure out some type of package where we can have other areas participate also, because what's moving forward from this group is really phenomenal. And I
Yeah.
think we have a lot of opportunity here.
Great, thank you. Yeah, we'll work on with finance on that. So, okay, any other discussion? Okay, I'm sorry, Member Desart.
Yeah, I do agree with Member Guston that we need to work on that other initiative later, but I hope you'll accept this. And I just wanted to point out, if anybody has any questions, Christine Jeffries, the president of the Naperville Convention and Visitors Bureau, is in the room. So thank you.
Yeah, there she is. So, okay. Seeing no questions, all those in favor? Oh, Member Krajewski.
Yeah, we just like to ask her, we got the President's Cup coming up, but we can work on helping you secure a whole bunch of Europeans to come here to Naperville and DuPage County. Because I think you guys did a lot with the Ryder Cup when they were here at Medina. And if you need any help with that, it's coming down the road.
Well, I'm sure they need volunteers out there, board members. So if you want to volunteer, we did.
Well,
and those are one of,
Jim Zay and I are playing.
oh, you are.
Okay. Okay, so
Terrific. I'll be looking for you Sunday afternoon. But thank you. And thank you all for your service to the DuPage County. We did, when the Ryder Cup was here, we brought in the VIPs from Europe. We set up 5 hotels, just kind of how the visitors bureaus work. We set up 5 hotels. We put our staff at each one. Every morning when they were leaving at about 5 a.m., we were taking restaurant reservations. We would make their reservations so that when they came back on the bus, they were ready to go. What we always say is leave nothing on the table. Our organization runs the Naperville Development Partnership. It runs the Convention and Visitors Bureau, and it runs the restaurant marketing, mostly funded by the city of Naperville, and with other contributions from private industry, but leave nothing on the table. So when we have an event like that coming in, we just look across the board, and whether it's a sporting event, there's so much economic revenues to be had, let's be honest. And as you point out, from outside visitors coming in, those are new dollars to the area. So we hope to leave them a little bit poorer than when they came. But the Europeans were great. They do celebrate like crazy. I did find myself cheering a little bit for the European team because the bar tab kept going up at our hotels. But other than that, a lot of these sporting events, and I have nothing but praise for the DuPage CVB. I think City of Naperville putting another $500,000 into marketing. Anytime you have people putting money, rising tide floats all boats. And I think we'll see a halo effect from each of these different activities. And I applaud the idea of having a fund so that some of our establishments and our communities that are maybe smaller, but they're going to go after a bigger event, would be able to tap into that resource. It's fabulous. Our hotels went down to about a 25–30% occupancy rate during COVID. And I know there were a lot of industries that were hit hard, but hotels actually had to close their doors. They couldn't, and I think I was on the phone almost every day with your health department, and I just can't thank that staff enough, trying to convey the guidance from the state government, how many people you can have, what's the new guidance for restaurants. So anyhow, they really need the energy coming out of COVID, get back on a level playing field, and bringing in events is the best way to do it. We are also a corporate, so you'll find on mine, it's not all sports. We look at corporate meeting association. They call it SMRF. It's social, military, religious, fraternal, and well, that's fraternal, if I forgot one. But those types of conferences love to come to the suburban areas, and we love to have them. So anyhow, we're grateful for your support to go after some of these smaller bid fees in some of these mid-sized groups, but I would adore to have that opportunity open to all of DuPage County. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so today we're just gonna take a consensus vote. So we all are agreement to move forward with this. Yes. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Christine, and thank you.
I know it looked like it was on there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what should we do? Yeah, it is a resolution. It's on there as a resolution. Oh, it's an informational? Oh, it was information because there's some, it's on there as a resolution. Yeah. Okay. We just want to make sure we're all okay. Okay, so we're fine with the consensus vote. Okay, thank you all. Any old business? Member Rutledge?
Thank you, Chair Chaplin. I want to thank my fellow board members for all of the discussion this morning about the clerk's issue. I was not aware, so big eye opening for me. Everybody had a chance to make comment that they wanted to. And so my comment is the comment you made about Member LaPlante's facial expressions. Nobody saw that but you, Liz. And
Sheila Rutledge, Member Rutledge.
Finish my comment, please. Other members, all the discussion was there, and you talked about her facial expressions being a disruption to this room. And honestly, I think by bringing that up, yours was a much bigger disruption to this.
Thank you, Member Rutledge. And I am the chair of the committee, and I wanted to keep control of the meeting by simply asking members to wait until I called on them before they spoke. And the reaction over here was very disruptive. So that was what, and I see it all the time, but I'm not going to go through it again. Thank you for your comments, and we will move on from here. So any other discussion? Member Eckhoff.
Probably won't like it, but I was going to say the same thing that Sheila Rutledge said. And, I appreciate the fact that you've got to run the meeting. I would just ask, I think our chairwoman has shown to be a peacemaker, and maybe it would be a good idea for the two of you to go talk to her. I think she's dealt with bigger controversies than this, but I don't think that it's appropriate, at least when it happens, from what I can tell, the first time that a member of this board is chastised. And I think it's going to be disruptive going forward unless it's dealt with. And I'm sure our chairwoman wants to have a good board. So I would just suggest that you do that.
Thank you, Member Eckhoff. Member Ozog.
I've had a similar, and you can find it on video somewhere, but I've had a similar issue with Member LaPlante, and I'm not sitting next to her any longer. I would simply ask that we have decorum as a public body at all times. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And that's all that we're asking for is, as a chair, I try to be very respectful to everyone on this committee. And I try to let things go, but it's very important that we do keep decorum here and remain respectful, and that we have these meetings run appropriately. Member Covert.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I echo what Member Eckhoff has said. So maybe we could resolve this, with the
Yes, and
chairwoman.
That's what I had
and
talked
not
with
have
Member
this
LaPlante. Yes.
come
Yes.
to the floor like
Thank
that.
you.
So
Thank you. Any further discussion under old business? Any new business?